This video is powered by USAGundam. Visit USAGundamstore.com and enter the code JOEY10 to receive 10% off your next purchase. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So a few weeks ago I did a nub removal tutorial, which is doing pretty well on the channel, but in that review, or in that tutorial, I showcased Infini Models, sanding sticks and sponges and stuff like that. And if you've been with the channel for any time at all, you know that those are like my favorite sanding equipment. That's what I use pretty much in every video that I have. And, you know, I really enjoy using their products to do all of my sanding. Well, they ended up seeing the video and they liked it so much that Infini Model wanted to send me a thank you gift. And behind me is said thank you gift. So in this, I kind of wanted to do a product review and go over what they sent and kind of showcase this kind of stuff, because they do make more than just sanding equipment, and I really look forward to getting into this and, you know, using the rest of these materials. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so here you can see what they sent a little bit better, as you know, I'm not in the way, but as far as these two things in the front go, I'm actually going to save these for a review slash tutorial on their own. It is a set of two different sizes of clear files. It comes in 3 different grits: medium, fine, and super fine. But like I said, I kind of want to use these for a video on their own, so look forward to that in the future. But I'm going to put these over to the side now. Now, as far as for the rest of this, they actually sent 2 types of paint clips: a paint clip rack, A through D types of masking stencils, and then their brand new paint rack. Now, there's 2 types of paint racks, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but I ended up getting the wide type. There is also a slim type, but as most of my paints that I have, the jars are wider, I wanted to go with the wide type there. So let me get this all cleared out, and we will start with the paint clips. Alright, so starting out here with the paint clips, as you can see here on the right hand side we have the Infini paint clip, the standard, with 36 in each box, and here on the left we have the advanced paint clip with 20 in each box. And the presentations of the boxes are nice. It's got a nice little matte sheen to the finish, and of course on the side it says Infini Model Craft Tools, same thing on the back, and same thing on the other box here. So let's take a closer look at each clip and compare them. Alright, so taking a look at these outside the box, here on the right we have our standard paint clip, and here on the left we have our advanced paint clip. So real quick, we'll take a look at the standard clip. It's what you would expect whenever you think of any kind of you know, paint clamp. It's got the wooden dowel here at the base, comes to a point, and you have your metal alligator clip up top, which is of course spring-loaded. It's a really nice constructed paint clip. I've made a bunch of these in the past using just, you know, hardware that I found at the hardware store and stuff like that, but it's hard to get the length right on these without having to do a lot of extra effort. And if you've ever made a bunch of these, you know how much of a pain in the butt it is to sit and make a ton of these. It takes a lot of time, so this actually is pretty nice because it takes away all that time and fuss of making your own, and you can just buy these. They're already ready, they're ready to go, and you just use them. And I do like the length of these because they're not super long, which in the past it was hard for me to find skewers that were actually a good length, because being in the booth, it's really hard to, you know, finagle a long stick around trying to get a, you know, a good angle as far as filming goes with these. So this is a pretty perfect. Alright, and moving on to the more unique of the two is the advanced clip. As you can see here, it is a lot different than its standard counterpart. The base seems to be made of metal, so that's going to be a lot of a more sturdy material there. There are also rubber garments, one of which is protecting the connection between the clip and the base, and then there's 2 protecting the teeth of the clamp. Now, one thing that comes to mind whenever I see this would be a perfect thing to use if you had a part that was painted, but you didn't have a really good area other than the painted surface. Say if you mask the part off and it's not really easy to get to the backside of it, you could actually clamp this onto the part and hold it without worrying about destroying the paint job in the process. Also, the rubbery material here would make it where the part would probably be less likely to slip around on you as you are actually painting it. So, I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to having the teeth, but in this instance, if you really didn't want the teeth to bear down onto the part, this would be a perfect thing to do. One thing I did notice is how thin this base is compared to the normal base. So when we get to the base stand, or the base for the clips, we will actually see how that works out. And speaking of the paint clip stand, here we have the one that they sent me. Now this one, it's a pretty good size, and I don't know where this would fall into the realm of like the sizes they do have, but if this is the smallest one they have, then the other ones are probably going to be huge, because the small ones I have from Mr. Hobby here, you could fit 2.5 of these in the size of this thing here. And the next thing I see that stands out to me is the circular pattern. And the circular pattern is the perfect diameter for the standard clip. So that's nice. And they're really nice and deep. I mean, as you can see, it goes down in there pretty deep, about an inch or so. And on the back side here, there's actually a couple things about this stand. This stand is the ICT0009, and here it says you can additionally purchase the ITC0010 or 11, which makes me think that this is probably the smaller one, and 10 and 11 would be bigger versions. And up here it says that it is made of polycarbonate material, and it is resistant to external impact and does not deform with moisture. So it is actually made of plastic, which is nice, and as it says, it won't deform with moisture, whereas with cardboard, if you ever got that wet, of course that would do damage. And over time, this won't deform, putting these in and out a billion times as you're painting. Now, one thing I did notice is the advanced clip. The advanced clip does not really sit in there very, I mean, it sits down in there enough where if you put another part, say, over here, you wouldn't have to worry about it, getting over to it. But it definitely has a lot more play to it than the standard clip, which has virtually no play to it. I'm having to force that to move it. Whereas this one, I can kind of hit that around, and it's the diameter of this. Now, this would be perfect if you had, say, a styrofoam block, because then you could just stab that down into the styrofoam block and it wouldn't go anywhere. But as far as the paint stand itself, just keep in mind that if you have the advanced, it's going to be a little bit more floppy in the holes, as I think it was actually intended and designed around the diameter of the standard clip. But I am very impressed with this stand here. It's construction, the material it's made out of, and all that. It's also worth noting that these two clips that I previously just showed actually came with this stand. They were just taped to the side of the stand like so. So not only do you get a stand, but you also get one of each type of clip with it. Next up, we have the Infini Easy Cutting Mats. These are masking templates. So basically, you put the masking tape on, and all of these little black lines are little grooves that you would follow with your hobby knife and cut out the shape according to what you need. Comes with a Type A, Type B. Oh, by the way, these are all sold separately, but there's Type B, Type C, and Type D. And if we take a look at the little paper that comes in each of these, so this paper is in whichever one you buy, it goes through Type A to Type D and has a little bit of a explanation for what they are. I'll let you guys read that at your own leisure. You go here, but basically each of these templates has a different style to it that can aid in whatever patterns that you need. And as you can see here, you basically put the tape on here and you use the little black lines, which are actually grooves, with your hobby knife to be able to cut out any shape that you can pretty much imagine. So if you're like me and do a lot of masking, these things are a dream to have. Basically, it makes masking, especially, the more intense masking stuff like, say, the resin stuff that I'm just now getting into, it's going to make that a whole lot easier. So this is definitely a game changer if you are someone that is either wanting to take your masking to the next level or a beginner, because if you use this stuff from the beginning, you're going to already have some insanely good masking right off the get-go. So great tools to have at your side for masking. And last but not least, we are going to finish off this video reviewing the new paint rack from Infini. So this thing, there are multiple different types. So what they actually sent me was the wide type 6 stacks. So as you can see here, there is a wide type 4 stacks, a wide type 6 stacks, and on the back side, this thing's a little hefty, which is good. That means there's good solid stuff in there. There's a narrow type 4 stacks and a narrow type 6 stacks. So basically, this one's just taller and has more rows than that one does. And of course, it's kind of self-explanatory, but the narrow type is for, say, like Vallejo, or I think this is MIG here. So thinner paints. And then the wide type, of course, is for more things like, say, Gaia, Mr. Color, things like that. So, that's basically it for the box. Here you can see kind of a layout of the materials it comes with. And here we have Infini Model Craft Tools, Infini Paint Rack. There's a QR code if you want to have that for assembly instructions. But basically, there's also kind of a diagram there. So that's basically it for the box. Alright, so here we have a good look at everything outside the box. Now, of course, depending on which one you get, the 4-tier or 6-tier, depends on how much material you actually get. This being the 6-tier, of course, I get 6 shelves, 3 bags of hardware, and 12 of these, which are the sides of the unit. They seem to be like a Lexan material, clear, hard plastic, and the shelves are actually metal. So that is very nice. They're using some really premium materials in this to make it a nice, hardy shelf. So now that you've seen everything kind of laid out, I'm going to get this thing put together and we'll take a look at it after it's all completed. And a few minutes later, here we have the completed rack. It really was pretty easy to put together. It's just a couple of nuts and bolts. And speaking of the bolts, I would suggest getting yourself a Phillips screwdriver, as the, well, I guess screws in this are Phillips head. And speaking of the hardware, I actually ended up with 2 sets left over, which is really nice because, if I was to drop one during assembly or over time, if I lose one, it's nice to have a extra set. So note that in at least the 6th tier, I was able to end up with 2 extras there. But taking a look at the rack itself, here you can see we have these slotted like little openings in the front here. That's kind of nice because when you have the paints in there, you can have the labels facing forward and see what they are through there. And another thing I wanted to note is it's nice that the plastic, or the clear pieces, I guess the Lexan pieces on the side, they actually are engraved with an R and L on the other side. And on here, you can see it says ITC 001213 paint rack wide. And on the other side, we have an L with the Infini logo there. So that's kind of a nice touch and detail there. And of course, it is 6 tiers high. There's the bottom. It's hard to get this in frame because it is rather tall, but I do like how this is the wide version, but it's still not that wide, where I'm actually able to put it on my desk here and it still stays out of the way pretty well. So that's actually probably where I'm going to keep this. And it's very convenient because I still have plenty of workspace here, and I'll have my paint rack off to the right. It's aesthetically pleasing to the eye, so it's going to add something to my background finally. I'll stock this full of paints, but my paint booth, as you guys can't see, is actually off to my left, to my side. So it's going to be very convenient to maybe put the paints up here that I'm either currently using on a build or paints that I most of the time use right here next to me, ready in reach. So this is going to be awesome to have. I'm really liking this. So next I'm gonna, I guess, put some paints in this thing and show off how it looks with some paints. Alright, so as previously stated, I wanted to end this video by putting some paints in here and seeing which ones of the, say, wide variety do and do not fit in this rack. So we'll start off with something like, say, Mr. Color. This is the Mr. Crystal Color, but same size jar. Fits in there just fine. No problems at all. Something a little smaller, so of course it's going to fit. Some Tamiya acrylics. There we go. Fits in there just fine. Move on to some Gaia Notes, which of course is smaller, so of course that fits in there. Next, we will move on to something a little bit bigger in the form of some Incaret Paints. So this is the little wider jar that they use, and that fits in there just fine. Actually has a little bit of room in the back, so that's nice. Next, let's move on to something like SMS. Once again, fits in there just fine. Actually has a little bit of room in the back, so that's nice. And also, it leaves a little space here, so there's enough of the SMS bottle, which is a little bit taller, to be down in here, so you don't have to worry about them falling out. So that's very nice. Moving on to something even bigger, we have some SMS Etch Primer, which is the same kind of bottle that is in, say, the primer for SMS. So this is the SMS Big Bottle, and it fits. It actually fits in there really nicely. There's still enough in the base where you don't have to worry about it falling out. So pretty much any SMS paints is going to fit in this just fine. But now we'll move on to something, say, like a Mr. Hobby mixing jar. This, it fits through, but it does not fit into the rack itself in the bottom. So you could theoretically get these to sit like this, but I wouldn't really want this sitting at an angle, so probably won't be using this in here, but just know that these do technically kind of fit in there, but not really. And of course, with it being the same size jar, same goes for the Mr. Surfacer, so it does kind of fit. Actually, this one's even bigger, so it does not fit. So this is better off kind of just in a drawer maybe, or something like that. And last but not least, on the bigger side, we'll try out some EX Gaia Notes bottles. So this is what, say, the EX Clear or any other color like that would come in. And this actually fits in here real nice, but it doesn't fit down in here, kind of like the Mr. Hobby mixing stuff. So once again, it would fit in there and you probably could sit it like that, but I'm probably not going to do that. So as far as what does fit in here, there's a huge range of paints that do fit in here really, really nicely. Basically all of your classic brands, even some newer ones like Incaret and SMS. So there are plenty of, arrangements that you can make with your paints with this. I, for one, am very, very pleased with this paint rack. It is going to stay in the background here, so in future videos you will probably see this sitting right in this corner back here. So that pretty much sums up everything that I wanted to go through with this paint rack. I love this paint rack. I can't wait for you guys to be able to get some of your own. And of course, before I forget, the top is actually left where you can still go up if you ordered, say, 2 of these. So you can pretty much go as high as you want with these. So, I mean, take that with what you will, but you can make a pretty substantial paint rack with a couple of these here. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this product review on the Infini Model supplies that they sent. Once again, a huge shout out and a huge thank you to Infini Model for sending me these gifts. These are amazing tools, and they're amazing tools to have on your side in this hobby. It makes life so much easier, especially with things like the masking templates and that nice paint rack there. But quality products, and I highly suggest them. So, in order for you to get some of your own, you can head over to USAGundamstore.com because we do supply Infini Model supplies there. And of course, I'll also add a link for Infini Model themselves, because anything that you can't find anywhere else, I'm sure you'll be able to find them at their own website. But I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. As always, a like and subscribe would be appreciated if you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one.